So we've got confirmation that Sarge is a good Sarge, a good Coulson, but nonetheless, let's remember that there are other pieces of information that we've got over here that kind of indicate that this is not his entire story. He's not really Sarge, and Sarge is not really totally a good guy. But hello and welcome back guys to another one of my theory update videos. This time it's week 4 for season 6 of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Alright, so far we've been right on the fact that Sarge over here is not trying to correct timelines. He's not trying to eliminate timeline anomalies. What he's trying to eliminate are those parasitic aliens. This is what he's been fighting all those years of his life. Okay, all those years of his life is something that we're going to discuss in detail later on and what that statement means exactly, but nonetheless, he's not after timeline anomalies. So Deke was not really his target. Deke was a target that he thought was one of those parasitic aliens, but that's because he's got a different body signature, a signature that tells that he does not belong. However, though, he does not belong in this timeline, but not that he does not belong to the human race. He's not a parasite. But there are still things to consider over here when it comes to Sarge. First and foremost, we need to consider that statement he made at the end of episode 2. Jacko asks him after they make their escape from Team S.H.I.E.L.D., Sarge, Coulson, that word, what does it mean? And Sarge responds, I don't know, but it rings a bell. So there is more to Sarge than we know. Sarge is not just Sarge. Sarge is not the person that he's being presented as on these couple of episodes. Sarge is still either our Coulson, hand or not. I mean, the hand could be regrown if he's been resurrected by some sort of superior entity. But yeah, Sarge is still either our Coulson or an alternate Coulson that kind of got resurrected after he died. Kind of had a memory wipe similar to the one that Coulson had, you know, with his memories from Tahiti and his memories from dying at the hands of Loki. But this one though was a lot broader, a lot bigger, kind of replaced his memories with totally different memories, totally new memories. Now, as I suggested last week, Sarge could have been an alternate Coulson from an alternate reality that got resurrected post his death at the hands of Loki. That's why he keeps talking about many years. You know, all my years, all my life, I've been hunting people like you. So in his recent memory, and as far back as 2012, he's been doing this. Now I know a whole bunch of you are thinking, okay, why is this guy so stuck on the idea that this Sarge person could be our Coulson? I mean, come on, let go of that theory. The thing about that is, on the trailer of Season 6, the one that aired like a couple of weeks before the airing of the season, we did see Daisy, the new Daisy, you know, the highlights in her hair, the new look Daisy, and that was a scene where she was hugging Coulson. So that's possibly a flashback. We're going to be getting a flashback to how Coulson died, and that could be part of, you know, Daisy dealing with her emotions, knowing that some guy who wears his face is right out there. Or it could be part of the reveal of how Coulson ended up being Sarge, like something happened there, something major happened there, and right before he died, that led to him being Sarge, like right after his death. It could as well have nothing to do with a flashback, like this is a reunion, once Sarge gets his memories back, once we discover that he is Coulson. And again, fake hand or not, this would most definitely not be the biggest deal. I mean, if we're talking resurrection by a demonic entity, hey, you know, the supernatural, the regeneration of his hand wouldn't be really out of the question. But that's not all there is to it. I mean, Sarge is a good guy, he's doing something for a good reason, but is that really all that he's got under his sleeve? Because Sarge has been killing people, his team has been killing people. Butterfly or Snowflake is a pretty bloody person, that's the kind of team this guy has. So to assume that he is totally good, totally on the side of good is a little bit of a stretch. There's also talk about agents being compromised because, you know, of feelings and whatnot, of relationships, romantic relationships and whatnot, and that's basically all about the conversation between Mac and Keller. Now the thing about that conversation, and I want to just diverge into this for a moment here, there's the fact that Yoyo froze the moment that the bat was going through Keller's mouth. And a lot of fans have been wondering, she's got speech, she's got two bionic, two, you know, robotic arms. She could have made a run for it, she could have pulled out the bat, she could have done it all. But it was foreshadowed at the beginning of the episode. You know, tell me, Agent Keller, are you compromised? That's all about what happened to Yoyo later on. She froze, there are emotions involved, and she froze. But Yoyo does keep a certain level of consistency. She was preaching the death of Coulson on last season. It was a little bit annoying, but nonetheless, she is consistent. She's got a moral code and she's abiding by it. So when push comes to shove, she does stab Agent Keller, regardless of the consequences, regardless of her emotions for him. So it's like the moment she froze, she was compromised for a moment, she didn't know what to do, she was scared of doing anything that would harm Keller even more, but nonetheless, a moment later or a few moments later, when push came to shove, she was no longer compromised and she made the right decision. But circling back though to the main reason I've been talking about being compromised, Mae is being compromised. We do see that on the second episode of the season. One moment she's got the upper hand fighting against Sarge and team, and the next moment, she freezes. She sees Sarge and she freezes. And so Snowflake manages to push her through the portal and back into the vault, and then they wrap it up and leave. They make a run for it. Now Sarge does realize that. Sarge does realize that, he would convince Mae of what he's really doing, which is what he's really doing at this moment. He would hide any ulterior motives, any other motives beyond this point, and she would really believe him. He's literally turning her on the trailer, he's literally getting her to believe in him on this trailer, and that's basically the entire objective. That's what we see on the trailer of the season as well. She does believe in this guy, she does like this guy to a great extent probably, because we do see Daisy telling her that the guy in there referring to Sarge is not the man that she loves. So yeah, this is not the end of it, there's a bigger plot at play here, and we're gonna have to wait and watch it play out. Once again, over here, this is yet another statement that kind of makes you think, is this just a figure of speech, the man in there? Or is it possible that it's more literal, like the man in that body of the man that you love, like this body does belong to Coulson? But here's what I believe. I believe that Sarge is after what he says he's after. He's after ending those parasites. He doesn't want them traveling to other worlds. They are his mortal enemies. The footage that we watched on episode 2 wasn't about them destroying that world, but rather about them trying to stop those aliens, those parasites, in that world. But they ended up failing, Sarge and Co. that is, and they ended up being overrun by those parasitic aliens, hence having to make a run for it, hence having to leave, and trying to stop them elsewhere. But I also believe that he's got another motive, that there's another plan at play here, and that plan is gonna come into effect or come to light later on in the events of the season. However though, I also believe that he's gonna end up remembering who he really was, like he was basically a Coulson. No matter which Coulson, by the way, he was a Coulson, and that's something he's gonna end up remembering. That's something that was hinted on episode 2, that's something they would be stupid not to explain to us, not to go forward and build a story upon. But okay, I'm still a little bit stuck on the being raised by a demonic entity. The name Sarge kinda reminds us of the Hellhound in the comics, I've talked about that repeatedly. There's the fact that the mention of butterflies in the context of resurrection kind of reminds us of the mutant butterfly, who could basically resurrect the dead, and they would have no memories of who they were. The only addition over there is they would have no empathy, and Sarge so far does not show a lot of that either. We've got the truck or the rig that looks like a ghost rig. The fact that one of them describes it as a truck and then moments later Coulson goes out of his way, or Sarge goes out of his way and describes it as a rig. I know rig is a common word to describe that kind of thing, but nonetheless, the way it was built up, the way it was referred to as a truck and then as a rig, that's what gets me a little bit here. We've got the entire Lee Lines bit, which is back at play on this episode. We know that the Lee Lines kind of play a major role when it comes to Cordco in the comics, when it comes to Edwin Cord hiring the Raiders. These people, the Sarge team, does give a little bit of a Raider vibe, but it also ties in with Dark Angel in the comics, and there's basically a lot there to hint Mephisto, make us think of demonic entities. But yeah though, these are just a few off the top of my head. I remember mentioning a total of 10 or 11 of these on last week's theory video. So yeah, we're still there, there's still a lot of hints to hint in that direction, and I'm not sure if it's really about Coulson, if it's possibly about an appearance of the Ghost Rider, but nonetheless, there are a lot of hints. Now there are also a couple of parallels to the Dark Angel series, but my memory is not that strong at the moment. I'm reading through the series again, so I'm gonna be back with more later on that front, but nonetheless, there are a lot of parallels. So yeah, we're getting that vibe, totally getting that vibe. But anyway though, our discovery about Coulson, since that theory about him, going after the people with the parasitic infection rather than going after the timeline anomalies did hold true, I don't think he ties in at all with the Chronicom hunters. He's got nothing to do with the timeline, and that means that the timeline story, that the Chronicom story, is kind of completely different. Now, what I think about Malachi and Iltara on next week's episode is they are either one, a rogue faction from the Chronicoms, and they are basically trying to achieve something that as Chronicoms they should not otherwise be after, or there's two, they're basically trying to manipulate the rules. Like, okay, we cannot interfere, we cannot do this or that, so we're gonna have someone else interfere. We're gonna just tip the balances the way we see fit. The other thing about the Chronicom hunters over here is that they've got Fitz. They do believe he is a criminal, so the entire timeline anomaly thing that I spoke of last week on a dedicated video kinda holds true, at the very least from the point of view of the Chronicoms. And I don't think the Chronicoms are idiots, because they are supposed to be sort of like keepers of time. So I do believe if they think that he is an anomaly, he is an anomaly. However, though, I suspect that this series is going to have two ways to dealing with it. Now, the first one is about saving this Fitz, making a deal with the Chronicoms, which is apparently what's going down on this trailer. The other way is that this Fitz is a goner. He's a goner, and they're going to find a way by the end of this season to merge with another timeline. A timeline where there's a Fitz, a timeline where everything is okay, and that's basically going to be the Infinity War Endgame timeline, which we're kind of absent from at the moment. But whatever way they do it though, I do trust in the writing for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I do trust that they're gonna work it out in the best way possible, and I do trust that by the end of this season, we're gonna be one bunch of satisfied viewers. But that having been said though, this was my theory update for the 4th week of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 6, so let me know in the comments what you thought of these theories. If you've got other theories that do suit the current situation on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., let me know as well if you did like this video by dropping it a much appreciated like, subscribing to this channel, and make sure while you're at it to enable notifications to get updated whenever I upload a video, publish a new community post, or start a new live stream. But until the next time that you tune in for another one of my videos, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in to this theory and predictions video, and have a great day.